welcome.
Welcome.
This is episode 3 of Chameleon. I love it. I think the more I say chameleon, it grows on me.
At first I was not sure about that name. Now we're like, yeah, of course.
Makes
Of course
sense.
chameleon. And who said that animal is ugly? Who is the judge of ugly and beauty?
True.
Like, you know what I mean?
True. I just don't want comments that say I look like a chameleon with my eyes open. I asked for it now, so it's okay if you
It didn't cross my mind, but now that you say it.
You're right. But welcome to this third podcast about
self-discipline. Big word.
It's a big topic, and I think we need to define it. We need to use examples about what it is, what it means for us. But all in all, what we want people to take out of it is, do I have self-discipline? Like,
is it something I get and then it's locked in?
do I build it? Do I have to nurture it? Is it a plant that, does it die if you don't water it? I think a lot of these questions can be answered very quickly by yes or no, but I think most answers are it depends.
Yeah.
By light. But today we stand by self-discipline, and I think this is something we have to tap into to promise ourselves to record this podcast.
Yeah, really. And this is something that also is really tied in with imposter syndrome, at least for me, where I feel like for years, as soon as I understood what self-discipline is, what it means as a concept, straight away started to say, oh, I have no self-discipline. Oh, I have no willingness. Oh, this is really not me. And I kept on telling people, when I tell about, what I'm good at and bad at, I'm like, self-discipline, this is really something I need to work on. It's really not my forte. And people would be like, what do you mean? Because from the outside, people are like, she's delusional or she's just making a joke. It's sarcasm. Because from the outside, it looks like I've got such a strong self-discipline.
I'm just listening to you and calling BS. I'm like, what? This girl is like queen of self-discipline. And I don't mean it in a way that's just like, let me flatter you by saying that. I think you've really helped a lot of people understand what is self-discipline.
Yeah, and yet, it doesn't change the fact that how much I suffer from it.
Answers one of our questions, right? You can have self-discipline and still have to work on it day in and day out and nurture it and feed it. It's not something that just appears and decides to stick around with you like...
Show me Google.
I have it.
You have it?
I have it open. I'm going to define self-discipline. It's the ability to do what you should be doing even if you don't feel like doing it. It's the ability to do what you should be doing even when you don't feel like doing it.
I think the first point that comes to my mind is, what should you be doing? This is already something prior that you have to agree with yourself, right? Because it's not what you should be doing from society telling you eat 5 fruits and veg per day. It's like, what should you be doing? What do you agree with yourself that you care about and brings your energy levels higher when you do them, and you know is right for you? Or if you've read about a certain topic a million times and you know that this is what you believe in about a certain topic, then you know you don't want to buy this or you don't want to do this or you want to do that. It's just first agree with yourself.
Yes, it's definitely self-agreement driven. You have to really be self-aware and observe your values that you want to discipline.
Mm-hmm.
If one of my values is being healthy, but I'm eating fast food every day, how do I discipline my health value?
Yeah.
It's really taking it, I think, as bluntly as that. And should I be consuming as much fast food? Is it healthy to consume fast food? The quick answer would be no. But what's healthy about consuming is balance. It's not just being super healthy and cutting down stuff, for example. And really going deep with yourself and not saying, I promise to myself that tomorrow I will wake up better and healthy. You won't.
And I think understanding your why will help you. I mean, if we move on to the next step, I don't know, there is no structure here, but once you understand why this is important for you, then it's so much easier to actually stick to it. I remember when I stopped milk, like dairy milk first, was, I don't know, 2012 or something. It was never for the cows. It was more like, oh, because I know it uses more water for the land and for the thing, and it was more like from an environmental perspective. And so I think it's just you choose your why, and then you go with it.
I have a quote here that I really want to read, sponsored by the internet. Aristotle said, "We are what we repeatedly do."
Yeah.
Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. Oh,
Love it.
this encompasses, I think, what we're talking about in self-discipline. It's how do you create a habit of pursuing what that excellence is for you, because it's what you repeatedly do. That is excellence. It's not perfection. It's not mastering something super well, so much better than you ever did and so much better than other people will ever do.
Yeah.
There's no competition here about excellence and perfection. The only competition is repetition and progress with yourself. Did I do more than I promised myself I would do? Am I doing better than I wanted to? Yeah, you're good. You're self-disciplined, almost.
I love this quote.
We'll put it down
really
here.
Yes, it's really
Swing.
good. And it's true, it's like, what is, if you say once to the cashier a big, oh, thank you so much for da-di-da-di-da, and be extra nice to a stranger one time, is it really gonna feel as good as if every single day you're, now you know the driver of the bus and you're like, hi, bye, thank you, have a good day, and like really smile to strangers and really make an effort if this is something that you value. And like, it has to be repeated.
100%. And I think that goes back to the exercise of self-discipline. If it's a tick box exercise, it's not really aligned with what you value. It starts becoming you're forcing yourself to develop a discipline for something. But would you argue that sometimes there are things that we know are good for us, that we want to be disciplined on, so a tick box helps?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You're asking me this? Me?
Yeah.
Me, the habit tracker lady?
I want examples. I want people to know that you don't have to start if you don't have that value fully ingrained, but you can ingrain it as you go.
So much. On the simplest thing, like sometimes you kind of need to want something to make it happen. So they're like, oh, I want to be that person that and then you kind of have to make you into it, and how would this person behave, and how would,
I love that. That's the question that I was trying to find, actually. What would healthy Melissa do? Or what would athletic, sporty, balance, whatever your values and your goals are, what would that version of Melissa do? Would she sleep and snooze? No. You get up and you put on your clothes and you're gonna feel like crap for the first 5 minutes, but it's just gonna feel so much better at the end. So there's a forceful zone there of self-control and self-discipline to make it happen.
And it's not because that's what's key for me is like, it's not because someone told you that's the right thing to do. It's not because someone asked you to do this. It's because with yourself, you've assessed several scenarios of how your life could turn out, and you're like, I want this outcome, so I'm gonna work towards this. Maybe the way you're telling yourself that shortcut of like healthy, for example, healthy Melissa is the name you give her, and that's what you go by. But deep down in your mind, this word probably means a lot of things.
Yeah.
I think for me, when you say healthy, I don't even think about the food. I think about healthy in a sense of like recognizing your emotions, how you're feeling, embracing it, being open-minded, talking to people, being great at communication. And this is what healthy means to me, is like sustainable growth. Like it encompasses a lot of things.
That's why I think it's so important to look at your values and define them in terms of the areas of your life that it impacts. Because for me, yes, a healthy mind, a healthy body, healthy behavior, they all link together, but they're separate acts of self-discipline that I have to engage in.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest enemy that you can be to yourself within self-discipline is procrastinating and almost finding shortcuts. Oh, healthy means many things, but I'll focus on body and I'm there today. Categorize, and we don't want your brain, because your brain does that really well, to fall into habits and prioritize short-term rewards, quick wins. We want your brain to start exploring the zones of discomfort where I've mastered, or I'm quite there with nutrition in terms of healthy. How can I get there with healthy mind, healthy body? What does that mean? What does that look like? Just because I feel like I've ticked one of them, I shouldn't discard, like you said, the other areas that I could be better at in terms of healthy, sustainability, how you communicate, how you understand your emotions, which is such a massive already thing to...
Massive.
So yeah, let's talk about procrastination, because I feel like that happens a lot when you're trying to self-discipline. Do you procrastinate? Do you notice that you procrastinate, or do you notice it later? How does that work?
So I think, for me at least this year, it's fairly easy to understand how much I procrastinate, because when I start my day or the day before, just to go to bed a bit more lightheaded, I do a to-do list for the day after. So otherwise, when I fall asleep, I'm like, oh, and I can't forget this tomorrow, and I can't forget this, and then you're just all of these thoughts coming in your bed, and you're like, I don't need all of this in my sleeping space. So I usually have that to-do list at the end of my desk, and I just jot down what I want for the day after. So I know when I wake up, I'm like, okay, these are the few things I kind of have to get done, and it doesn't have to be like one category. It's many things. It can be like, oh, I really need to change the filter of the vacuum. It can be as small as this. Oh, I really need to call that person again because I completely forgot to reply to a message. Could be small things or bigger things. Oh, let me start my application for this because I still haven't done this. So it could be different sizes, different priorities, and then in the morning I kind of put a number next to it of like, first, did anything else come to my mind now? What do I need to do today? And second, prioritize them with numbers, with like what needs to be done most urgently or most importantly. And on top of my to-do list, there's always the date of the day. Not the date of the day that I've written down, but that I've chose with myself to do it. And so obviously, when I put too many of them, when I know when I have more than 10, some won't get done. Most likely. Very unrealistic for me to do more than 10 a day. And so those will be carried on for the next day. And so I have the dates that it was initially agreed with myself, so I can tell how much I've procrastinated on something. And sometimes that actually really helps me, because you and I both, I think, like, I'm really, really hard on myself. And so sometimes I'm like, oh man, I can't believe I still haven't done this. And then I look at the day, I'm like, it was 2 days ago. That's really fine. Like, it's really okay. It's totally fine. Like, chill down, calm.
Breathe.
Have a chamomile. Relax.
Yes, I think we forget that sometimes, for example, I'm always an examples girl. I think when you meditate, for example, and that becomes like a reward for you, or an act of health for your mind, or whatever you categorize it in your values, do you get mad at yourself when you meditate 2 minutes more than you should have because you missed another call?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. Why are you mad at yourself about other tasks as well? I think when there is a general deadline, when nothing is on fire, and if you're a bit late, it's fine because you had creative block and it came later on and you feel like you could deliver better a little bit later. I think procrastination is something that we talk about so negatively. It's like, oh my gosh, you procrastinate? We all procrastinate things that don't give us immediate reward, or it's not a quick win. It just stays until the last minute and we have this urgency to do it in one time block. But I think we can do a full episode on procrastination, how to overcome.
Yeah.
But I wanted to bring it in because it comes up in self-discipline, where you prioritize some acts of self-discipline because they bring you quick reward versus others, which is, oh, I did my morning routine, convenient enough, wanted to have breakfast anyway and do my makeup, that's done. Did you meditate? No. Did you stretch? No. You know, the things that I know I want to work on and add within my values, I procrastinated. Oh, I'll do it at the end of the day. Why?
Oh, yeah.
Do you do them at the end of the day? No. And I think this is the part of self-discipline I want to focus on, and most listeners, I think, will want to know. I do the stuff I should be doing because it's a habit now. How do I build a habit around those that I don't do? I promise myself I will and forget and fall asleep. Do you have any tips? How do you think you got self-disciplined at some things that weren't that natural to you?
Okay. 3 things comes to mind right now. One thing is not setting, I don't know why, but in our mind sometimes, or at least in my mind, if I skip the meditation of 7 a.m., like if it's 7:30 and I haven't meditated today, I'm like, I used to be like, oh well, now the next time I can meditate is before sleep. Like the only time of the day I can get this thing done is when I wake up or when I go to bed, because technically you're in the best, alpha, theta, whatever frequency of your brain, and that's where you can tap in the most, and blah blah blah. So, but the reasoning is mad. The reasoning is because I wasn't able to do it in the very, very best condition today, then I'm not going to do it at all, because that's kind of what you're agreeing to, saying, I'm going to do it just before bed. Are you? No. And then it doesn't happen. So I feel like now, you use this expression a lot and love it when you say create pockets. It's just like opening other possibilities throughout your day. Like, can I actually do this on the tube? Oh, that would be weird. Can I put music? Can I actually do this at my lunch break? And I just go to the bathroom, or I just go to the park? Can I just sit? Can I do this outdoor? Can I do this just while my food is cooking, while the kettle is boiling? Can I do this at another time than just when I wake up and then when I go to bed, like I'm a monk somewhere super serious? I can do it anytime.
I'm big on this. I'm big on batching. People confuse me as a multitasker. I'm actually not a multitasker, but I'm great at brewing something. And while that's brewing, something else can happen, and the brewing is not over.
Wow.
So you maximize that time. I'm a time maximizer.
Yeah, that sounded super scientific.
But you've really helped me put a name to it right now, because I think often people get confused as multitaskers, and we know already from research that we're not multitaskers. We're not good at that. We try and we lose focus on both, and the quality at the end is just horrendous. But if you're boiling water and you know it's going to take 10 to 15 minutes, can you really quickly go and pee during that? It's as simple as that.
Yeah,
the answer is yes, go pee. Why are you holding your pee for 15 minutes? And I think this trickles down to other activities, right? You're in the tube for 2 hours. Do you need to be present in the tube?
You can read, you can... like the tube, obviously, because I live far. Zone 4, 3, 4. The tube, for me, is like several bunches, because I know the beginning of the tube for me is still out on the overground, so I'm still having network and stuff. So I open my 3 Instagram pages, post a story on each. I'm like, okay, I do this on the tube because that's where I can do it. Then it goes on the ground, no more data. Open my book, start reading, have some water. It's just, obviously, I'm not gonna just be there and.
Now it's intuitive.
Yeah.
It's an intuitive part of your routine where you know, I don't have access to data now, I can find something else to do. And it doesn't strip away from your presence, because I think that's a question I will get, because I'm a big promoter of be present, your being in that situation. But your being doesn't need to be, if every day your commute is 2 hours in the morning and every day you just focus on being for 2 hours in the tube in that situation, you can be in your book, you can be in your music, you can be with a state where you're still doing something that doesn't strip away from your presence. I think that's the problem, where if you're reading and your mind wanders off and you're no longer reading, that's stripping away from your presence.
Yeah.
But if you're being in that book and in that moment, you're still doing a good job. I think that movement has really confused us as to what we should be being or be doing, or can we be in our doing. And I love clarifying that, and maybe it's confusing, but we'll do a full episode, I think, on presence and being in the present.
Especially with reading, I feel like being present while reading is an activity that, as a beginner, we would not advise. It's like, try to be present while you walk or while you wash the dishes. It's much easier than reading, because,
Yes.
it's a tough one.
And how does it relate to mindfulness? And I think this is a sneak peek as to, if you stick around, the type of conversations we like having and we will have, and to come back to self-discipline and how to get more self-discipline. One thing that you said that I really agree with is creating pockets of time and setting clear to-dos or clear goals. You can call them whatever, clear actions, but be clear with yourself. In really, really simple layman terms, what is the action associated with that goal? Because the goal can be super grand and really hard to do, but the action related to the goal can be much easier to do. So that's one thing you can do, and then creating pockets of time to do that action.
Yeah.
What else would you say? You mentioned at the beginning.
Yes, I say I have 3 things that came to my mind regarding how
Yes.
to not procrastinate. So the 2 others, the second one would be, it's not very personal, but that's one of my affirmations that I tell myself every single day, is today is the day to do the things I've been putting off. And I know, I know, today's the day I do the thing I've been putting off. It's such a powerful affirmation that it just makes everything possible. You have literally a whole day and ahead. Or sometimes I tell this to myself and it's 12 already, but I'm like, yes, pick one thing. And I have to pick kind of one thing in my head that I haven't decided to do today. Pick one thing that you've already asked yourself this a few days ago. Pick it and do it today. And just forcing yourself, as little as it is, maybe it's something that there is this jacket that it's been 3 weeks, you see it in your cupboard and you know you want to bring it to charity, and it's like somehow it's using some storage facility in your head. Yeah? It's like that mental load, it's taking some MBs and some gigabytes, it's there, it's like, oh, this jacket. Taking it, doing it now, like that day, after saying this affirmation, is rewiring your brain to tell you, this word doesn't work in English. It's rewiring your brain to really be like, oh, I can do that. I can do stuff that I've been putting off for several days, or several weeks, or several months. I can do this right now. I can do it today. I've moved house to be close to that boxing gym, to go back to boxing. It's been 9 months, I live there now. That can all stop today. I don't need to do anything else around it. I don't need to get ready. I don't need to put money aside. I don't need to do anything. I can just go there, do a free trial. Go today, right now. Let's go. Message them on Instagram, call them. Or if not, just go to the gym, turn up. So that affirmation, very, very useful to me.
I love it. And I think that's immediately going to the point I wanted to talk about. And maybe that's your third point. So it's the why you mentioned at the beginning.
Oh no, it was
No?
something else.
I think remember your why for everything that you do, and especially to build self-discipline. Why do you want to do that goal? Why do you want to achieve that goal? Why do you want to go to the gym or go do your boxing? It can be vanity, and I think it's okay. It's completely okay to embrace the why, because it's your why. It's no one else's. It shouldn't matter what I think about your why. It matters what you think. But
so I was about to say that could be a bit pressuring, like, I don't know what my why is. Like, even like, for example, one of my goals is to be able to do a press to handstand, to do a motivated handstand. I have no idea why I want to do this. I just, because it would look cool.
That's a why.
And yeah.
Why do you think it would look cool? And I'm such a, I'm a design thinking person, right? So for me, the question why is the most important question. And if you're like, well, I'm not sure, I think it would look cool. You just gave me a why.
Yeah.
And I can say, why do you think it would look cool? And we can always go as far as finding the core why. Doesn't
I
matter.
think it's probably because as a kid, this is something that, like, I would do it, but very, I don't know, it's not something I've had, in my life. I was not really that gymnast person doing, oh yeah, I was a bit, I don't know. Listen, I don't know, I feel like, okay, if I go really deep into it, I feel like if I could do a handstand, when I would be able to do a handstand, like Karen of 5-10 years old would be super proud. She would be like, that's so nice.
You just
I think that's
found
it.
it.
Yeah.
See? And this is called 5 whys if you want to try it. Start with the first why, which is I think it would look cool. But I think deep down you know that it's the kid in you that would think it looks cool. But why would it think it looks cool? And you can even find the reasons why your kid would be happy. It looks difficult, it requires strength, it requires balance and maybe a bit of flexibility and training and persistence and all the traits that you as a human appreciate and admire.
Yeah.
So suddenly it goes from I think it looks cool to it takes a lot of work and it's very admirable.
It's very rewarding, isn't it?
Yeah, same with me. I mean, there's a lot of things that I want to achieve that at first glance it feels weird to say out loud. And I'm like, well, in the grand scheme of Melissa, it makes sense. I was super shy. I didn't know why. But it was because people around me said, she's reserved, she's shy. Here I am a few years later. I know I can do a public speaking speech or I can go in front of people.
Smashing it as well. You're the most comfortable person I've seen do public speaking.
Yet, deep inside, there's always this, you're a shy girl, you're reserved, So it's all about, I want to work on this negative self-talk or negative self-view.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm disciplining myself on by doing these podcasts, posting, writing, not hiding behind a lot of the work I like producing and keeping it in my journal. Sometimes you have to read that journal out loud. If it helps one other person, why not?
And when I think about the why of this, as in to that Hansen silly example, I feel like in the essence, for me to improve at that particular discipline, it really proved myself in a very tangible way that if you put on the work, if you show up every day, if that habit is something you do often, it works. Because I feel like at the moment, I mean, in my whole life, everything I do is very, as adults, is a lot more theory. It's like, oh, I'm meditating because it's better for me. I'm going to the Chinese doctor, I'm aligning my chakra, I'm doing all of this because it's better. But you don't have this, this equal this. And I'm not chasing a weight loss or anything, so I'm not chasing a number. I don't have those super tangible things to obtain. And sometimes it's hard when I tell people, oh, I've worked a lot on my heart chakra, or I've worked a lot on my, self-esteem, or the thing I had with guilt and because it's so hard to show results. Where the handstand is just showing me, oh yeah, if I do the same thing that I apply with my mind to my body, but the body will show so much easier. Yes, that worked. Because now I can hold on both of my hands. So I feel like maybe I have this on the side of all my other goals to just prove me that this is working.
You're so right. It's not tangible. When you work on your mind, you don't really test. Was I more patient in this conversation because I'm working on my patience?
Yeah.
You don't.
Yeah.
You don't ask yourself if you're more patient. But you probably are because you're working on it. And it could mean you take a few extra breaths in between responding or reacting and being emotional. Yet we don't pause and really acknowledge the work we do for ourselves that is intangible. And this is an opportunity, I think, within your practice to look at what you want to discipline within yourself and what your values are. What have you achieved so far? And give yourself a tap in the back. Because we have achieved as people much more than we think, in general. So I want to touch, I think you have a third point.
I know, but we need to probably wrap up, so I'll try to say it fast.
Say the third point. I'll say the final point and we just close.
Yes. So my third point is obviously habit tracking. So tracking, I'm very very much data driven person. I've always been. So I know to some people it looks a bit intense what I'm doing, but it can be done in a smaller scale. But I think for me to prove myself how much I'm doing and how self-disciplined I am or I could be, I need to first assess where I was and be like, because it was so hard. Okay, you do it one day, second day, third day, but at the end of the week you're like, oh, I feel like I've done this every day. But when you have several habits that you're trying to get at once, it's actually not possible to remember. So I have a very very simple way. I've tried it different ways, but the best for me is a box ticking with a number next to it. So let's say I would have meditation, reading, writing, for example, for every day of the week, and I just tick it and put how many minutes I've done this habit. So the very minimum I can do is 1 minute, because sometimes I have literally only 1 minute to read. I'm like, I need to leave my house at 56 to get the tube of 15, because I need to walk 20 minutes. Then it's 54, I have 2 minutes before leaving my house. I'm already dressed. Let me use that 1 minute to read, or So that really enabled me as well to see that time can be stretched, even though I'm very often late. I apologize to everyone, I'm always late. But I mean, in 1 minute, a lot can happen. You can literally read a page or a paragraph. And then that's it. I just put one next to it. And it feels like, moving forward. But sometimes it's 20 minutes,
Progress.
Yes.
Repeating a task. Getting one step ahead. It doesn't mean you read more than you read yesterday, and I think people get that wrong as well. Have I worked out a bit more than I did yesterday? Absolutely not. But have I done better than last year?
Yeah.
Have I done better than 5 years ago, Melissa? And be easy on yourself, because you can't just promise to achieve 5 different habits or build 5 different habits, and just be good at it.
Yeah.
And the final point, and to wrap this up, is accountability. You don't need to track your habits in a spreadsheet. If you do, like Aaron, it's amazing. I think it's the level of detail that we all want to feel comfortable in getting to, and you can, because she's made it absolutely super easy, and I think she will link it somewhere for you to have a look at. But if you want to do it on paper or in your head,
Yeah, I started on paper. Yeah,
that's
summer,
fine. And to hold yourself accountable to it, you can do it with yourself, you can do it with a friend, you can do it with a loved one, you can do it with a sticky note on your desktop. Accountability is important because quite often, if no one else sees it, I'll excuse myself from doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we go back to that wire in your brain. It's a muscle. You can also convince yourself of things very easily.
Yeah.
And not do them and procrastinate. So hold yourself accountable in any way or shape or form you feel comfortable in, because it can make all the difference. And I'll hand over to Karen to give us a bit more examples of how she does this and wrap up. You wrap us up.
You wrap us up. No, I feel like you can hold yourself, like, don't be shy as well to maybe have different accountability buddies, because maybe you have that person that likes reading the same type of book as you, or is new to reading like you, and you're like, okay, with that person, once a week we say how many minutes we read this week, for example, or what we thought was hard, or the trips and things that helped us. But with another person, it could be gym and accountability for another topic. So yes, I would say go plural, like go different ways to keep yourself accountable, but also with different group, maybe with a few, there's so many ways. So, and obviously we have ways as well internally as to how we do this. But yeah, there's really a lot of tools out there to keep yourself accountable. So the wrapping up of this, we talked a lot about procrastination because it's really with self-discipline. I feel like it's its nemesis, right? And I feel like it's good to start trying to track something or trying to want to build a habit. But don't try to go for unrealistic things of like, I've never meditated and I'm gonna meditate 1 hour every day. like you're gonna disappoint yourself, and again that can create something in your mind of like, oh, I failed again. So it's better to go slowly but surely, and then add. If you see that after 1 week of meditating every day for 3 minutes, you feel good with it, then you can say, okay, I want to start writing now, or I want to start meditating 6 minutes instead of 3, or so build up on it. Be patient because it's a long-term game. This is not, you're not trying to prepare for something to be that you of yourself perfect for next week. You want to feel good forever. You don't want to feel good just for next summer.
Yes. You couldn't have said it better. It's a journey.
Yeah, cheesy, but
it's not. I think you just reminded us that it's a journey. It's not just one size fits all and many things at once. Don't be overly ambitious, I think. But ambitious enough that you keep adding as much as you feel you can take.
Yeah.
And be honest, listen to your body, listen to your mind, and see you next time.
Yeah. And be ready to start again. Because self-discipline is not you get it. And then it's like, yay, I have this now. No, because you're going to go on holiday one day, come back and see classes all the place. And meditation is being hard again. Or you're going to have something, an injury, and you can't sit in this position anymore. You know?
Yeah.
So, or your nose is going to be blocked. How do you meditate with a nose? You know? So, start again.